Do we regret leaving California? Today's actually the perfect day to answer this question because it is about 16 degrees and it's freezing cold with wind. I mean, wind really makes it colder. Everybody asks me when I talk to them, because we've been out of California now for almost 2 years. So I talk to clients or friends, don't you miss California? Because they'll ask how cold it is. And I'll tell them, oh, it's like 16 degrees today. And so I'll tell you if we miss California. I'm checking on my chickens right now. The short answer is I don't miss it a single bit. There are a couple things I do miss, but it's not that big a deal. I'll tell you about it. Hey, chickies. Hey. So when we left California, our goal was to find a piece of land to build on. We weren't exactly sure where we wanted to move. We knew two things, though. We were living in a community that was a new construction community in Southern California that was really expensive. The houses were stacked on top of each other. There was no room. Like, it was a sidewalk around the house. And at the time that we left, those houses were about $1.1 million. We were renting it. But with that house and having experienced that, we really decided that we wanted to be, number one, more self-sufficient. Number two, have some space for our kids to run around. And really not have any rules where anybody would tell us what to do. That's really been my favorite thing about this. Back in our old community, there used to have parts of the neighborhood where you'd have to take pictures of your garage so that you could prove you could fit 2 cars in it, because they didn't want you parking your car on the street. The HOA was terrible, and so we moved out here where there's no HOA, obviously. There's actually no rules in our county, which is fantastic. I love it. Some people won't love it because you have neighbors that have lawn cars or something, or you're driving down the road and people have tractors and stuff piled up. But I actually love that because it means that there's no rules. People can do whatever they want to. And so that's one thing that I love. I think there's a lot of places in Idaho where it's very, very similar to California. For example, down in the Boise area, we drove through when we were trying to find a place to live. And Boise looked just like Southern California. I mean, it was growing like crazy. The roads were too small, in my opinion, for how many people they had. It was just like Orange County all over again. The houses were very similar. You might get a little bit more space, but it really wasn't what we were looking for. So that's why we ended up coming up to more northern Idaho, and it's been, I think, just fantastic. I love this lifestyle, this change of pace, and just everything about it. So the first thing people ask is, well, what about the cold? Do you miss the weather? And honestly, it's like 16 degrees outside, but I have my snow clothes on and it's no big deal. You just get used to it. The snow does pile up. I bought a snowblower, which is great. I would like to get a plow or a tractor. All my neighbors have tractors, and that would be a huge convenience, but my snowblower does great. I got a new one that has a larger, I forget what it's called, a larger deck, and it works really well. It's really not a big hassle to use it. I have a really long driveway. Let me show you. So I will snowblow this driveway here. It's a gravel driveway, and it will take about 35 minutes total. It's really not that hard. It don't have to snowblow all the time, but I think it's pretty. So if it snows, and it doesn't snow that much, honestly, we did have a pretty snowy December. The previous year it wasn't very snowy, but I probably need to snowblow maybe a dozen times a year. It's not that bad. The snow that sits on here, it melts off the road pretty good. It's not that big of a deal. All that to say is that you get used to the cold, you get used to the weather, and you just live with it. It's honestly not that big a deal. The only thing that's kind of a bummer is that when the weather's worse, my dog, who's a Great Pyrenees, loves it, and so she just spends tons of time out here, and it just is like a hassle to take her to the bathroom because she just wants to be outside all day when it's terrible, 10 degrees and windy and stuff. But other than that, no big deal. So number one, the weather, that's not a problem. The one thing that I do miss is the food. There's great sushi. I do love In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A. We don't have those out here, and that's really not that big of a deal. We live about an hour and 20 minutes away from a big city that has Costco and Walmart and all that stuff, and Home Depot and all of the big stores. So we're not really missing out on stores or shopping. It's been really nice. We used to live like 2 minutes down the road from a Target, and now we don't do daily Target runs, which is really good for savings. So out here, the traffic is not bad. I love that about it. There's actually only 2 stoplights in town. You get great gas mileage because it's always highway driving. There's no traffic. My Dodge Ram 3500 gets about 20 miles to the gallon, which is amazing. When I'm thinking about positives out here, gas prices are lower, electricity prices are dramatically lower. There's no regulations or permits needed with the exception of a septic permit. It is basically, I mean, if I want to go outside and shoot guns, I can do that. If I want to get a bow and arrow, I can do that. And it just is whatever I want to build and do, I don't have to ask permission for it. And I love that about this. My neighbors are really nice. The people are fantastic. And it's just really fun. So overall, I don't miss anything. I mean, I liked to see the ocean, but when I was living in Southern California, I rarely would go to the ocean. You just get used to the things that you live around. And so when we go back to visit, because we will be visiting, it'll be fun to see stuff. But I definitely feel like the cost of living is far better. I like that we can have room for our kids to do stuff. We can have animals, that we can have our homestead, be more self-sufficient and less dependent on things. You know, when we were in Southern California during the first lockdown and pandemic, it felt extremely just fragile, how fragile that system is. They have consistent power outages because they have mismanagement of their power resources. They don't have good water resources down there. There's just a ton of problems with their infrastructure. And when you look at the roads down in Southern California, it's night and day. I mean, the roads out here are so much nicer. Anytime there's construction, it's done quickly. And they have to plow the roads and maintain the roads. Somehow they're able to do all that with lower taxes and stuff. So I just love everything about living out here. I initially thought to myself, like as we were leaving, like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? I had lived in Southern California my entire life. And so if you're thinking about doing a move, number one, you know, there's a lot of fear of the unknown. You just don't know what you don't know. You think you're making a big mistake. You're not going to be able to ever change it back and go back to what you were doing originally. And that's always, you know, not true. If you move out, you can always move back if you hate it. And I think having that kind of a mentality is important because it'll let you try new things. But all of the fears that you have generally, you know, like, is this good for my kids? Are they going to be happy? You know, those kinds of things, which are definitely big questions and important questions. My kids are little, so we didn't have like established group of friends that were like from, you know, their formative teenage years or something like that. That might change the situation and circumstance. But with everything that we had, we were always worried about stuff that just ultimately didn't end up being true. And that's just, for the most part, you know, anything that you do that's just new or different, it feels different, and so it feels scary for the most part. But once you're out and you discover, hey, it's not a big deal. If I ever wanted to move back, we could just move back, you know. It's not that big a deal. I don't think that we would ever want to, especially after owning land and being able to just have space. It's just fantastic. I don't ever want to move back to the tiny cookie cutter box houses that are right on top of each other with your neighbors who complain because you left your trash can out after noon instead of putting it right away at 11:30. You know, all the stupid rules with HOAs. I hate that stuff. So this is perfect for me and my family. I feel like we really like this. We also just love being close to outdoor stuff and being outside, especially in the summertime. I mean, it's really cool because too, with the seasons, you get to look forward to stuff. Our kids love sledding, and so it's fun to look forward to when the snow is coming. It's fun to see the spring popping through and the green. It's just so beautiful out here. And then summertime, you're at the river, you're out getting wild fruit and being in the forests. It's just so cool. And then fall time, it's beautiful. You got blackberries, you got fun fishing, you got just all kinds of cool stuff. So every single season, you know, there's so much fun stuff to do. So if you have money for a tractor too, makes it a lot easier. You don't have to snow blow. You can just push snow down. If you're thinking about moving though to like southern Idaho or Boise or a more, you know, city kind of living, I don't think you have to really worry about the change in lifestyle. It's really just the same, in my opinion. People are nicer. There's less regulations on things, more freedom. But other than that, I think that pretty much the same. So hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about Idaho, let me know. Comment down below where you're thinking about moving. If you're thinking about moving to Idaho or another state, I'd love to hear from you. And when you go out of state, make sure you don't bring all the problems of California with you. I'll just leave it at that. Have a good one, everybody. Take it easy.